Hey guys, Brother Zach here from the Imperfect Ashlers Masonic Podcast. Today we've got a very special episode for you. Brother Ben and I got to sit down on a video chat with the brothers from the Studio 357 Masonic Podcast out of Omaha, Nebraska, and just ask each other some questions. We had a lot of fun. We hope you enjoyed as much as we did. Enjoy. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. This is the Imperfect Ashlers Masonic Podcast. All the views and opinions stated on this show are strictly those of the host and their guests and do not reflect the opinions of any Masonic Lodge or Grand Lodge. We're on with the guys from Nebraska, the student.
Runner. And so he didn't really say much. He's kind of old school where you don't talk about it still. But we spent 2 or 3 years together as scoutmasters and assistant scoutmasters, and he still for some reason decided I was worthy of becoming a Mason. So I asked him what it was all about, and he just kind of grabbed me by the shoulder and said, let's go talk out back for a little bit, and then really never looked back. What about you, Jim?
Well, first off, I want to start with the viewers. I heard one of your episodes. You were talking about one of your secretaries was speaking in Yankee. So I hope everybody can understand what we're saying when we're speaking in Yankee. But I'm Brother Jim. My Masonic journey is pretty short so far. I started in August of last year, so it hasn't even been quite a year since I was raised. I guess I started in April, but was raised last August. My interest in Masonry started, we're recent empty nesters. Both of our kids were in college, and we found ourselves at home doing not much of anything. All of the athletics and the academics and everything that we'd been doing for social fun kind of dried up. So we didn't have anything going on, and I'd realized that as a parent over the years, I hadn't been given back time to the community that I wanted to do. So I was looking for something that would be interesting, that I could do socially, that I could get to meet people. And one of my buddies from work that I'd known for a long time, he was one of the types that would post on Facebook all the time about how great Masonry was. So I finally reached out and said, hey, what do I got to do? And you know what? That was the magic question. And so from there, I've jumped in. Joe knows I've jumped in with both feet. I've gotten involved in just about everything. I'm still learning that difficult Masonic word, no. I haven't said no yet.
I think you're trying to jump in with my feet also.
Well, yeah, I try to get you involved in a lot of stuff too. But no, that's how I got started. It was mainly a empty nester trying to find something to keep busy. And now I'm busier than I was before.
So let's back up a little bit and let's do some intros. First of all, could you guys tell us what lodge you're a member of, and if a station, do you hold a station? If you give that to us, please.
Yeah. I'm Brother Joe Evans, worshipful Brother Joe Evans. Wow, worshipful. I am the master of lodge, Beehive Lodge number 184, AFAM in Omaha, Nebraska. I've served pretty much every chair except the stewards over the years, and we're about halfway through terms now. Got about 7 months left, and I hope by the end of my term, I can remember all my lines.
Well, keep hoping on that.
Yeah.
I am Brother Jim Gill. As I said, short time Mason so far, but I am a member. My mother lodge is Nebraska #1. It is the oldest lodge in the state of Nebraska. That's an ongoing joke we've got on our show because that's what we like to talk about in my lodge. We predate statehood. So we were a lodge about 12 years before Nebraska became a state.
Wow.
We were also we predate the Grand Lodge. So we've been around a couple of years, but at Nebraska 1, I am the senior deacon. I am also a plural lodge at Beehive 184. I just recently joined, and that's from my friendship with Joe and getting to know the guys over there. A great group of guys at that lodge as well. So I am a plural member there. And yeah, we can talk about appendant bodies too. I'm starting to get a little busy into those too. But yeah, that's where my background is.
That'll kind of lead us actually into another question that we had was, it was obviously through Masonry, but how did all of y'all meet? I know you, your son is also part of the show as well too. So that obviously is how y'all met, but how did the show come about? How did y'all get together and just decide on a podcast?
So my son and I would sit in the backyard around the campfire, and I would, whether I'd had a bad day or just wanted to celebrate or whatever, I would call my buddy Dave, who was his scoutmaster, and he would come over, and we would always, no matter what we started out with, conversation always turned to Masonry. And we kind of decided that we would just put a camera in front of us and keep talking Masonry. Because I said, man, I was talking to my son and, trying to stay youthful and impress my son. I was like, we should do a YouTube channel and we just sit by the fire and talk about Masonry. And he's like, Dad, you're an idiot. I said, well, yeah, but we could still do that. And so that just kind of evolved over time into a podcast. And he said I was crazy, and my wife said I was crazy. And now here we are killing it. Apparently we're killing something. But we have our grand custodian he's basically the guy that's in charge of all of our ritual for the state. He is a very, very huge supporter of our show. And he was at a Masters and Wardens meeting and was telling everybody about our show and how they should listen to it. And Brother Jim happened to be there at that meeting and started listening to the show and became a fan. And then we got to know each other on Facebook a little bit. And then my son and I decided we were going to take the leap and join the Scottish Rite. And lo and behold, sitting right next to me was Brother Jim Gill. And then
Joe introduced himself. He says, I know you, you're Jim. I said, you're Joe. Said, yeah. So we got to talking about the podcast a little bit. I pointed out to him that I liked the show, but he was doing it on YouTube, and I can't watch YouTube while I'm driving in the car listening to podcasts. And he said, well, we've got it on Spotify too. You could just listen. Oh, really? Okay. Then it started the conversation. So fast forward a couple months, he said, you should really be on the show sometime. No, I don't want to get in front of the camera. You don't want to hear my story. But the guy that brought me into Masonry ended up being a guest. So Joe had him lined up as a guest. I was going to sit over in what we call the peanut gallery over here and make fun of them as they're doing the podcast. Well, it just so happened to be a bad ice storm, and I was the last one to pay any attention to that. So I still showed up, but Sean didn't. So I got thrown in front of the camera, and I've kind of been here since.
As one of our very good fans, Patrick Smith says, he's like a stray cat that never left.
That's right. That's right.
I like that. That's good. You got anything?
Okay. Yeah. What presents do Nebraskan, is that right? Nebraskan Masons. I mean, what are y'all doing as far as like public activities?
Charity type.
Charity.
Stuff,
Are you involved? I mean, what you got going on in Nebraska?
So it is tough in our lodge because we are actually at the Scottish Rite downtown. So we're not necessarily in a community. There's 3 lodges that meet in our lodge room. So as far as community outreach, it's very tough for us. Like, we can't just, open the door and have a barbecue because it's downtown Omaha. There's not a lot of community feeling down there. But as far as in general in Nebraska, we have a lot of car shows. There's a lot of pancake breakfast, that kind of thing.
I think it's kind of neat, and I'm sure you've got a lot of this going down there, but every lodge has got a little bit different flavor, as we say in our show. And so it's really neat to see every lodge come up with different ideas on ways that they can do stuff. So I like to visit different lodges and do their things. But even with the appendant bodies, when you talk about outreach, this weekend, actually going on right now, is the Shrine Bowl in Kearney, Nebraska, where the Shriners set up a football game with kind of all the all-star kids from high school. So it's a good opportunity for them. But Joe had mentioned our Grand Custodian, Eric Bensala. He is actually heading up the All-Star Masonic Band camp. So at the same time, those 2 things are going on. And then at the halftime of the football game, the band is going to come out and perform, the marching band. So that's just one of the kind of big things going on right now in Nebraska. And that's put on by the Shrine.
Yeah, it's put on. We have 3 shrines in Nebraska, and they take turns being the host shrine, but they all 3 collaborate both with funds and staff to carry this game out, and it's televised. I think almost every state has a Shrine Bowl, and then they have a big national game every year. But it's pretty special. Nebraska's a big football state, so as is that team that wears crimson and white.
Cornhuskers.
Cornhuskers, yeah. That's the one thing that we share in common, is that we've got a rich football tradition. Alabama and Nebraska both.
That's right.
But in Nebraska, it's just tradition. It hadn't been very good lately.
Yeah. We don't have anything else. All we have is Husker football.
Although we do have an ongoing joke that Nebraska did. We were undefeated against Nick Saban, so we've got that to hang our hat on.
But to be honest, I'm an Auburn fan, so I like that stat.
Even better.
So what? I had one, and I just completely. Going back to like in lodge type stuff. What is maybe your favorite part of the ritual? Whether it's a certain degree or a certain lecture or anything that we could say without giving away anything. What would be your favorite part of going through the degrees, so to say?
Going through, I would. That's tough because the easy answer is the master degree, right? But I think the second lecture for Fellowcraft, mostly because the whole thing. He's got it down.
I'm not sure how it is in Alabama, but the by far the longest is the middle chamber, and I took it upon myself to learn that one. I've delivered it twice. I delivered. I'm not going to say it was really great, but I did my best. But as far as favorite, I can't get away from that master degree. It's something I still get chills about thinking about, being in that degree and contemplating what it really means. And so, as far as that goes, that's my favorite going through the degrees, but I do enjoy giving that middle chamber.
I think going through, my favorite is honestly, it's probably the charge for EA. Because now you've gone through it, you've made it, and you get this charge.
That's
and
right.
it's that one, I think that one really sinks in the most.
You know what? And to add on to that middle chamber is probably my favorite because I've got a great appreciation for what it is because I've memorized it. In order to memorize something like that, you have to, the wording is not always the easiest in our lectures. And so you have to really dig deep to understand what it's saying, to learn the lessons. There's so much going on in each of the degrees. It's like drinking from a water hose. You, unless you watch it again and again, you don't get it. And even then, I think the best way to learn it is to memorize it, to learn what it's really saying, and then from there you can. I look forward to learning a lot more of that stuff because I think you gain a much deeper appreciation by learning it.
I'm right there with you on that one. That's the first big thing that I learned was what we call it the stare lecture.
Yeah.
And when I got that, I realized, oh, I can do anything in the lodge now.
Oh yeah.
I tell everybody it's like the video games where you take on the big boss. Once I've beaten that big boss, I'm not afraid of anything anymore. So.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
So I've got a question for you guys. I heard you both mention the Scottish Rite. So what? Obviously, you are affiliated with or are Scottish Rite Masons. Or are you affiliated with any other appendant bodies? Like, do y'all have York Rite in the state of Nebraska? I'm sure you do, right?
We do have York Rite.
We do. I've petitioned and been accepted, but I have not gone through the degrees yet. So
you're gonna love it.
Yeah, I know I am. I'm kind of excited for it, but.
And I am just Blue Lodge, Scottish Rite, and Shrine.
So
not as active in the Shrine as I used to be, but
we're both York Rite Masons and Scottish, but we haven't been that involved with the Scottish Rite. And it's not that there's anything that we can say negative about the Scottish Rite, because we know that it's just filled with really good men. But I'm trying to carve out a day from my month so I can dedicate it to Scottish Rite. that appendant body, a chance, you know.
I think that's the biggest problem. So Joe and I are even different in that I'm a lot more involved in the Scottish Rite than he is, just because that's the path I went. That's where I've got a lot of my time wrapped up. Within our Scottish Rite, we also have the Knights of St. Andrew, which is a service organization for the Scottish Rite. Specifically, we do a lot of when people come in the building, we've got greeters, or at the meetings, we'll clean up plates or whatever it is, just whatever the Scottish Rite needs, and then whatever money we raise, we turn back into the Scottish Rite if they've got certain things they need. I right off the top of my head, we had to put in some window coverings. There was a window that needed those. Just small things that we can do to help. But Joe and I were both in the fall class of last year, so we haven't been in very long, but we just had the spring reunion, and our class put on the 5th degree. So Joe was actually the director for that degree, and it was a lot of fun. But it's the problem with Masonry as a whole is there's just so many things to do that are so great and so much fun that either you spread yourself really thin or you don't get an opportunity to do everything that you want to do. So that's learning that say no. Joe's gotten pretty good at saying no and figuring out exactly what he wants to do. I'm still in the process of trying a little bit of everything. And
although I've said no to the 5th degree for 4 months now, and now, we'll just keep doing it.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, we're the same way. I after I came back from being suspended, basically went straight into the York Rite, and soon after that went into the Shrine. Soon after that went into Scottish Rite, and I just bit off more than I could chew at one time. And now this year's master at my lodge, it's been that much more, and I get that completely. And after this year's up, I'm going to try to myself start focusing a little bit more on York Rite, and then go through the rest of it and kind of see where that leads me, I guess you could say. But what else you got? Anything?
I was going to ask something about there was something about that Scottish Rite that I was just about to ask, and I forgot what it was. You go ahead. It's your turn. I'll figure it out in just a second, though.
I've got one that's real similar to one of the ones y'all asked. Is when coming in, what has Masonry, not just at the point when you came in, but even now, has it been everything that you've expected? And just personally, what do you think could be better, if anything, or just what could be better about Masonry in general?
So I think I think it's more than I thought it would be, but it took a while to get there for me. Spending so many years away from lodge, it was just kind of one of those things that, yeah, I'm a Mason. I didn't, hey, great, I'm a master Mason. What does that mean? But the older I get and the longer I've been in, and, you go through all the chairs and you sit through enough degrees and it starts to mean more, right? You're more emotionally invested in it. And I've been the top line signer for, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 guys now. And it is because I'm enthusiastic about Masonry. But I think that comes through. And I think it means a lot more. I mean, when I came down here to do audio check for this, I have a 27-year-old friend. I just turned 48. One of my best friends is 27, and he joined Masonry because we worked together. We had just started our podcast. And then, of course, that was all I talked about. He got tired of listening to me, and he said, well, I'll give it a listen and see what I think. And I mean, we're best friends. Him and my son are also best friends. We all go out and hang out together. But it's my friend group. It is Masons. It's all my brothers.
That's right.
And they say you gravitate towards each other. That's 100% true. And being former military, it gave me that brotherhood that I was missing.
So
I was
go ahead.
just going to say, on my side, I didn't fully understand what I was getting into, but I was looking for something, and so I found more than I was looking for. In that case, it was everything that I was looking for and more. But I will throw into that if you're not wanting something like that, if you're not looking for something like that, it probably is not going to be that big of a deal for you. If you're not willing to put in the time, if you're not willing to put in the effort to make yourself a better person, it's probably not going to be something you enjoy. If hanging out with the guys and doing what we're doing right here and just talking to each other, if that's not your thing, you're probably not going to enjoy it.
That's right.
It just happens that everything in Masonry that I've found so far has been something that I was looking for and that I enjoyed, but I was willing to put in the time too. If you can't put in the time and if you can't put in the effort, it's a cliche that you get out of it what you put into it, but I think it's 100% true.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I've jumped in with both feet, is because the more I do, the more fun I find it to be. And so it's just kind of a vicious circle.
Yeah, it kind of made me think about, other than us doing this, around here, there's not a lot of times that we get together outside of lodge, but there are some. What kind of stuff do y'all do maybe as a lodge or as Masons outside of lodge functions? I mean, do you ever have your families get together and go hang out, by the lake or anything like that?
We do. One of our favorite things to do is we get a bunch of guys from lodge and we'll go to the shrine and we'll shoot pool. They have a 110-year-old old housing pool table. So we'll go down and it has the wooden return rails underneath it. It's really cool. But we'll go down there and enjoy the very heavy Shriner pour. And we'll have some libations and shoot pool. And other than that, it's this podcast. I mean, we have, from what you can see, we have a whole other side of the room over there with a big table with chairs all the way around it. And usually when we're filming, we have people here and hanging out. And we have a room dedicated to refrigerator and water cooler and liquor cabinet. And we just, this is where Masonry happens. We say it all the time on our show. There's more Masonry happens at stuff like this than will ever happen during a business meeting.
And I'd say both of our lodges are working on doing events outside of your regular business meeting. I know Beehive, they're meeting once a month, and I've only got to make it to one of them so far, but they had guys just show up with guitars and start picking on the guitars. Mm-hmm. We were playing cards and it was just guys hanging out. Yeah. That as far as the other lodge, we've got a drive-in movie theater here in town that on Thursdays they do benefits. So you come in, make donations to whoever you want. We've got one coming up next month that we're going to just go watch the Goonies at the drive-in theater. I just tonight booked. I stole an idea from Beehive and from Mitzvah Lodge here in town. They have camp out, so I just booked a camp out for our lodge next June. There's a state park here that's got cabooses that they converted into kind of cabins. So we've got a couple of those cabooses that we're going to use next year and have a weekend where it's just the guys, which again, that's something we stole from the other lodges. But I've been to the one at Mitzvah, and I plan on being at the one at Beehive this fall. It's just guys hanging out. And as Joe says, that's where real Masonry takes place.
Right.
Exactly. We have guys show up to these campouts, and they'll bring friends, right? And it's a great way for non-Masons to see how we interact with each other.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at, that the idea, and that's given me some good ideas too, I think. Yeah, that's I agree 100%. Masonry's not it's what happens between the walls, but at the same time it's what happens when you're outside of them as well too. So that's a good way of putting that. I like that.
And Zach's wrong. We do hang out sometimes. It hadn't been long ago that we three of me and my wife and another couple and Zach and another couple. We all went out to eat. So we do hang out sometimes. We enjoy each other's company.
I'm like y'all mentioned earlier. These guys are some of my best friends. They're the ones that keep me accountable for what I need to be accountable for, and we just have a good time together.
And I talk and text. I probably text and talk more to Zach than I do anybody other than the guys that I'm teaching their lessons or something like that.
Have you got any other questions for him?
One last question. What do y'all see as the greatest threat to Masonry?
Ooh. Might have to be careful with this. I want to keep my dues card.
You got an idea? Because I'll start on this. I was just thinking about it.
Yeah, go for it.
I think there's two biggest threats to Masonry right now. The biggest. I'll start with the first one. The first one that in my mind is we should do this. We should have a camping trip. We should get together. We should do this. If there's not a plan behind it, I think that's the society as a whole, but Masonry, I see this a lot. Well, we really should. We should start a podcast. But if there's no follow through with that, it doesn't happen, and we don't get the word out, and nobody hears about it, and we don't get to have those good times, and then people don't enjoy the lodge. They don't come around anymore, and so they don't show up anymore, and it's a vicious circle. And I think as a society we have a whole lot of we should do this, and it's not happening. Going hand in hand, I think an even bigger threat is the people that fight against the we should. I don't want to say it's the grumpy past masters, because you don't even have to be a past master, but it's somebody that says that idea is not going to work. When the new guy comes in and says, I want to see this, I want to do this, and they say, nah, that's a bad idea. I think that's even more deadly than the we should, because here you've got somebody that's excited to do it, that wants to do the work, that wants to put in the time, and you've just dashed their hopes and told them that that's not a good idea. I think those are the two biggest threats to Masonry. It's for men. Now I can talk about a bunch of stuff that's happened outside of Masonry and the perceptions and everything else, but we can overcome that if we put in the work. We're craftsmen. We should be putting in the work. And so I see that as the biggest threat to Masonry.
That was a great.
I was going to say,
I'll keep mine a little shorter.
You're shorter? Okay.
Mine's a little shorter. It's the answer for everything cannot be, that's the way we've always done it. The society is changing. The lodge needs to change with it. You can't do things the same way you did 20, even 10 years ago, really. These younger guys, they think different than we do. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way it is.
That's right. I agree 100%.
And that goes back into doing stuff like this, the podcast, the YouTube, the apps. I don't know if y'all have seen that new Amity app. We don't have it down here, but I'm still on it. But stuff like that's the future, I feel like, of Masonry. A lot more digital. Now, and I like keeping some things the whole way. I want to still have the register, where you sign in when you come in, and I don't think.
We don't need online degrees, maybe.
Yeah, no video degrees. But
the ritual has to stand.
Yes, but I believe you're exactly right. That's one of those things. All of that was very well said, and I agree 100%.
With your idea of the registry, there's something. There was a lot of power in when I went in to be initiated. The guy actually made the comment to me. He said, there's nothing to be afraid of in here. But the thing that stuck in my mind is he said, everyone's gone through this. There's been presidents that have gone through this. There's been statesmen. There's been business leaders. There's been world leaders. They've all gone through the same thing you're going through right now. And in my mind, to picture some of the greats of the world doing the same exact thing that I did, I wouldn't want to do anything digital. I want to do it the same way that those guys did. So there's something great in that feeling.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I got in was mainly because of the mystery, but more of the history of it too, knowing that there were such great men that have gone through all this. And I was told the exact same thing. There's millions and millions of men that have gone through the exact same thing that you're going through. Maybe a little tweak here and there, but pretty much the exact same thing. And that's kind of stuck with me ever since. So.
And it doesn't matter where you go, which lodge you walk into, they all feel warm and inviting. I don't care. I can go wherever and walk in a lodge and I feel like I'm home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I haven't not been to a lodge yet where I didn't feel welcomed right off the bat.
Right.
Well, I believe that's going to do it. I believe we're going to have to make us a trip up to Omaha one day soon. Go hang out.
Wild Kingdom.
Yeah.
That's how I remember. Yeah.
But we do appreciate y'all going both ways on this. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and
you guys have a great podcast. We appreciate y'all allowing us to interview you.
Yes,
we appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate the time.
Well, that being said, I guess we're going to go ahead and cut it off, and we appreciate everybody for listening. Is there anything y'all want to add in before we do hit the stop button?
No, I appreciate the collaboration, working back and forth. I mean, like I said, we're all just spreading the same light. So any chance we get to work with somebody else on their platform and vice versa, I think it's good all the way around.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah. A win-win for Masonry.
Yep.
Yep.
And our how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity.
Amen.
Always. It's been a pleasure to sit with you guys.
Amen.
Amen.